Universalism strives to embrace and include all in a loving and caring community, at the same time as we try to create a world that is diverse, hospitable, joyous, and just. Wherever you have come from, whoever you are, whoever you love, whatever your journey has been, it has led you here, and we are glad to have you. Now, please enjoy this beautiful hymn, Dark of Winter, sung by Dr. Sophia Betancourt. Sorry, go ahead.
You're about to be invited into a breakout room, and whoever's in your breakout room is part of your community. So welcome one another and check in with how you're doing as we move toward this longest night of the year.
Hello, welcome back. And now we are ready for our story for all ages. It is the book Play With Me by Marie Hall Etz.
Play With Me by Marie Hall Etz.
Now we will have our offertory. Our Helping Hands recipient this month is the Riley County Humane Society. To make a donation, please go to the UUFM website at uufm.net. At the top right of the web page, click on the donate button, and that will take you to our donation page. And from there, you can find make a donation to RCHS or make a donation pledge payment to general operations, and then click the donate button. Or if you would prefer to write a check, you can mail it to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Manhattan, P.O. Box 910, Manhattan, Kansas 66505. And please note on the check if you want the funds used for the general operating fund or for helping hands. And during the offertory, please put your joys and concerns into the chat. And this morning's offertory music will be the Christmas Waltz, played by Renee Brown.
In the darkness, we sometimes feel very much alone. And one of the great values of this community is the reminder that we are not. Though we may be separated from one another in these little boxes on screens, we have webs of interconnection that support us in times of sorrow and celebrate with us in times of joy. And our weekly sharing of joys and sorrows is a sign and symbol of those connections. Thank you, Marisa. The noise of days recedes into a gentle, dark embrace, exhaling into crisp silence, held by night, new and old, embracing beginnings again. I just think that reading is beautiful. I think we have all experienced the power of nighttime stillness, the stillness of the dark, somehow more profound and more silent than any stillness we encounter during the day. In the darkness, other senses, our hearing, our smell, our touch, awaken. Sound is actually louder at night. That's why all the creaks sound more foreboding in the dark, because of the way that sound waves travel in cooler temperatures. At the same time, the levels of activity are lower, so the background noise dies down. The stillness feels weighty. And right now, we're easing toward tomorrow, the solstice, the night that is the longest in the entire year, and in its way, the most still. Now, at an intellectual level, in a daytime kind of thought and understanding, we know that solstice is no more than that moment at which the tilt of the Earth's axis begins to, I'm sorry about that. Sorry. Right now, as we're easing toward tomorrow, the solstice is coming, and we know that there's this tilt of the Earth's axis that begins to lean back toward the sun instead of increasingly away from it. And I remember third grade science when I first really encountered that idea, and playing with the balls and the tilt of the axis and how it affected the appearance of the sun moving away when all along it was us turning away from the sun. What a revelation. What a lesson about perception and reality. Here we are at the darkest time of the year. And here we are feeling very much in the dark, unclear on what will come to be from this time. Perhaps the Christian season of Advent offers some insight. Advent is the time of waiting for the birth of Jesus, waiting for the return of Christ, waiting for new life. And as we move toward solstice, we can think too about waiting for the return of the sun. And this year, this complicated, frustrating, difficult year, waiting for the vaccine, waiting for the package you're tracking, waiting for schools to reopen fully, waiting to hug family and friends, waiting to go back to the fellowship building, waiting for the economy to come back, waiting to travel, waiting for the inauguration, waiting and waiting and waiting. The mystic pastoral priest Henri Anauen wrote about this season, "Waiting is not a very popular attitude. Waiting is not something people think about with great sympathy. In fact, most people consider waiting a waste of time. Perhaps this is because the culture in which we live is basically saying, get going, do something, show you're able to make a difference. Don't just sit there and wait." For many people, waiting is an awful desert between where they are and where they want to go. And people do not like such a place. My 93-year-old mother hates to wait. She says, "I don't have that much time left. There's no time to waste waiting." I too have spent so much of my life immersed in activity that I'm drawn to that. I'm drawn to move on to the next thing. On the other hand, I can remember rich moments of waiting, when I could muster the will to simply be where I was and notice what was going on. Waiting. We have spent most of this year in a place of waiting. Someone told me this week that they felt like we've been in the longest Advent season ever, from March until December. We are desperately tired of waiting. People are waiting in fear. Fear of disease, fear of political upheaval, fear of the police, fear of the protests. People are waiting in sadness, as those they love have died, as they've lost jobs and activities that kept them engaged with life, as they've missed family and friends, as they've short-circuited holidays and birthdays, graduations and anniversaries. People are tired of waiting. It's been 9 months, long enough that the delivery should have happened. Frustrations are high. Despair is creeping in. In November, here in Riley County, there were 7 suicides. That's more than we usually have in 6 months. Pre-pandemic, the rates of suicide in this country were already at highs we hadn't seen since World War II. Of course, not everyone is having the same experience. The president of the American Association of Suicidology reminds us that though we are in the same storm, we are in different boats. Some are rafts, some are yachts, some are ocean. If you're in a rickety boat, if you have a history of depression, if you're experiencing particularly bad health or economic effects, if you struggle with addictions, please make a plan for getting support before you think you need it. Think about what triggers you have and what activities make you feel better. Write them down, or better yet, share them with someone who loves you. Ask for their help in watching for problems and reminding you that you are prepared. Create a list of reasons you want to live. And come to think of it, this is not a bad thing for anyone to do, no matter what kind of boat you're sailing through this storm. We all need to remind ourselves what we love about life, what we are thankful for, why we are glad to wake up each morning. Write down a list of people you can call when you're feeling hopeless. Anyone listening here now can include me on that list. I want to assure you that you are not alone, that you are loved more than you know, and that we are here for you, that the world needs you. And no matter what kind of boat you find yourself in this season, watch out for those around you. Be sure they are safe. Be sure they know that they are not alone. Be sure they know that they are loved. Because if there's anything we have learned in these pandemic times, it is that we need one another. So let me return to the idea of waiting. We are waiting for so many things that we may not really realize what we are waiting for. We are in the dark, in the unknowing. The best waiting is not passive, not simply allowing ourselves to be buffeted by whatever comes. The best waiting is engaged, observant. Let me share a bit of a poem by May Sarton from Beyond the Question. The phoebe sits on her nest, hour after hour, day after day, waiting for life to burst out from under her warmth. Can I weave a nest for silence? Weave it of listening, listening layer upon layer. But one must first become small, nothing but a presence, attentive as a nesting bird, proffering no slightest wish, no tendril of a wish toward anything that might happen or be given, only the warm, faithful waiting contained in one's smallness. Beyond the question, the silence. Before the answer, the silence. Perhaps to get through this season we are in, we need a bit of the spirit of the phoebe, attentive, perched on her nest, waiting, faithfully, still. Does this bird know what will come? Does she know life will burst forth from under her warmth? Or does she simply respond to instinct in her waiting? The poet seems to be saying the phoebe has no particular desire for what will come, no slightest wish. Is that the kind of waiting that might help us survive this time? The still, patient waiting? We know the sun will return. So much else remains a mystery. This solstice, we have an unusual special edition in the movement of the skies, as Jupiter and Saturn will come so close together that they appear to merge. It'll be the closest they've been in 800 years. Some are calling it the Christmas star and comparing it to whatever it was that the Magi were supposed to have seen at Jesus' birth. Astrologers say that it predicts a major ideological reset, which we could no doubt use, a combination of the perception of ideas, potentialities, and possibilities in Jupiter and their manifestation in the concrete world in Saturn. I'll go with what the New York Times said, though. It said, basically, it's going to be cool. Perhaps one of the ways that darkness and stillness keep us going is that they allow us to observe the unexpected when it comes along, like the conjunction of two huge planets. And we observe the outside world, and we also observe the inside world. Irish poet and playwright Edna O'Brien tells us, in a way, winter is the real spring, the time with the inner things happen, the resurge of nature. So some of the unexpected may be inner things happening, workings within us that require the stillness for us to even know they are happening. This is the morning for interruptions. I'm hearing ambulances now. The reading Marisa offered before this reflection ended with the idea of embracing beginnings again. Each new night, it reminds us, turns endings into beginnings. It's a reminder of the balance built into the universe. Perhaps coming around to the beginning again is the surprise. Or perhaps we know we will come back around again. I don't actually know the answers for you, what internal workings may be happening in this time of the longest nights, this time of waiting for regular life to begin again. All I can recommend is that you find some stillness so that you can discover what these internal workings may bring. A return to the beginning? A surprise superstar in the sky? I invite you now into a time of stillness and meditation. Breathe deeply into your body and know that you are alive. Let the breath move as deeply into your body as it can, swelling your abdomen. Then allow the breath to move out of your body. Let the breath move even more deeply into your body, reaching down. Then allow the breath to escape. Continue to be aware of your breath. As you're comfortable, close your eyes and enter the darkness. Imagine moving out into the dark night and seeing the night sky before you. For a little while, simply notice. Observe what you see in your imaginary sky. Notice what you feel. Perhaps cold night air. Perhaps the warmth of wool pulled around you. Find in the night sky an object that invites you. A star, a planet, a satellite, the moon. Whatever beckons you. What do you observe about it? What attracts you? Perhaps this celestial object has a message for you. If it does, take that in and discover what arises in your own body in response to that message. Consider now what you may want to leave behind in the darkness. A bad habit or a nagging fear, an old thought or reaction that has outlived its usefulness. Send that to your celestial object. It will take care of it. And as you are ready, come back in from the outside. Notice where you are sitting, the feel of your clothes against your skin, your breath in your body. Bring your awareness to the present, to the place where you are, and to the digital space where we are together. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Let me conclude with these words written by Jan Aldrich Clayton. O holy darkness, loving womb, who nurtures and creates, sustain us through the longest night with dreams of open gates. We move inside to mystery that in our center dwells, where streams of richest beauty flow from sacred living wells. Creative darkness, closest friend, you whisper in the night. You calm our fears as unknown paths surprise us with new sight. We marvel at your bounty, your gifts so full and free, unfolding as you waken us to new reality. O holy night of deepest bliss, we celebrate your power. Infuse us with your energy that brings our seeds to flower. The voice out of the darkness excites our warmest zeal to bring together dark and light. True holiness reveal. Amen. We have some time for sharing and conversation. Maybe there is something from your meditation that you want to share, or maybe there's some inspiration from the darkness of winter, some beauty you have noticed, or a moment that has taken your breath away. Marisa will help monitor our conversation. Please write in the chat if you'd like to be recognized, or if that's too much of a challenge, wave your hands or do a raise hand emoji. Let us know you want to speak, and Marisa is going to recognize people and try to give us some order.
Looks like Edwin might like to make a comment.
Yes, Edwin.
Well, I don't know that I have any special comment. I was going to participate in the group. It's I've found that one thing I tend to do almost every day is get outside. And even in this cool weather, but today is warmer, I find that quite an inspiration because I find a place to hike and where they're not just around the neighborhood, but where there are trees. And today I'm going out near the lake, and part of that hike, there are trees on both sides. And being close to nature does a lot for me. I find that something that revives my spirit because I know that will awaken in the spring, and it's a cycle that goes on, and as I hope humanity as long as possible on this in this world. I guess that's all the comment I have.
I agree with you 100%, Ed. 100%.
Could I chip in a thought about trees?
Let's see. I think Jessica has a poem she'd like to share.
In the December Chalice Circle packet, there was a poem by Galway Kennel called Wait. And I went to the website and listened to him reading his poem. And the intro that he gave describes how one of his students came to him in despair because her love life was over and she was thinking of killing herself. And so he said, I want you to come back and see me before the end of the day. And in that time, he wrote a poem for her. And there's a couple lines in here that I just absolutely love about gloves and love. So I'm going to try to read it without crying. So Galway Kennel, wait. Wait for now. Distrust everything if you have to, but trust the hours. Haven't they carried you everywhere up to now? Personal events will become interesting again. Hair will become interesting. Pain will become interesting. Buds that open out of season will become interesting. Second-hand gloves will become lovely again. Their memories are what give them the need for other hands. The desolation of lovers is the same. That enormous emptiness carved out of such tiny beings as we are asks to be filled. The need for the new love is faithfulness to the old. Wait, don't go too early. You're tired, but everyone's tired. But no one is tired enough. Only wait a little and listen. Music of hair, music of pain, music of looms weaving our loves again. But there to hear it, be there to hear it. It will be the only time, most of all to hear your whole existence rehearsed by the sorrows, play itself into total exhaustion.
Very nice. Thank you.
Okay, Lauren, would you please share what you had to share? And then after Lauren, Mickey, would you please share your comment?
Well, my thought was just on trees also. We live out here in the country with a lot of walnut trees, and I love seeing the branches and the spatial structure in these trees during the winter. You don't see it in the summer when you just look at them from a distance, but I always find myself looking up into the canopy of the tree and thinking about what's in the core and provides the strength of the trees, instead of just the superficial outline that you might see from a distance.
Okay, thank you. Mickey?
I just thought that the darker the sky or the world that we live in is, the brighter the stars or our hopes shine. It makes sense.
I think that's true, that the darkness allows the light to show through. I mean, we don't see stars in the daytime. They're there. We don't see them because we don't have the darkness to be able to see them.
Mhm.
Michael Oldfather. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
72 years ago this week, I was in the 3rd grade, and Mrs. Munson, Mary Munson, who had a mixed record with me. Some things I remember fondly and others not so much. But she wanted to show us why the day that was so short was we were closer to the moon. And she had drew something on the blackboard, and then she said it was so hard for her to accept this when she learned it, because she knew from living in her home. Now, she was living in a home, pretty primitive, I think. But the farther you got from the stove that was in the middle of the living room, the colder it got. And so it didn't make sense to her. And I have one more fond memory of her. She wanted to make us better people. And one of those things was to teach us about the right kind of diet. And she asked us if anyone in the room had ever been constipated. And poor Byron Dillo raised his hand. His mother was worried about his health a lot. And so she went on to say several things to do. And I don't remember all of them, but I do remember that drinking orange juice was good for that kind of problem. And so almost every time I have a glass of orange juice, I think about Miss Munson, trying to make us better people and have our systems work better.
Thank you, Michael. So next we will hear from Kathy Swenson, and after Kathy, Sylvia Beeman.
I have to say, Dan drinks a glass of orange juice almost every morning, but I don't. So he must be healthier than me. I just wanted to say that some people and all people, if you get a chance to talk a little, bring their perspectives, bring such a bring in the miracle of life. Jonalu's you do, and yesterday, and everybody here, I think I just so appreciate what you say, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for Mark. He led a group yesterday for the bird count. Mark Mayfield, Mark Clark, and his friend Stacy Novak were there, and another family with boys 14 and 8. And Mark I think Mark lives in a world where when he goes out, there's so much more that he hears and sees. I mean, a little click of a bird and he knows what it is. And he can hear things off in the distance that I will say, what? And then after a while, if you really listen, you can hear it. But he knows what it is. Little maybe, and he doesn't jump to conclusions like he thought, maybe that's a winter wren down there. It's very possible. And listened a while, and sure, the description of what it could be was there. And all those miracles around you that you don't even can't. I mean, he will see some bird off to the side that I don't know how he saw it, but he knows it's there, and he knows what it is by the way it flies or the way it lands. I don't know. He can tell by the shape. It's just a miracle to me to watch him. I think I probably enjoyed watching him as much as I did looking for birds. But the family was also getting to see these children and their parents and their involvement in nature and how much they knew. These little 8-year-old was just full of knowledge, and so was the 14-year-old. Of the birds and how much they loved it. And I just think people are always inspiring, the people that I listen to, and I appreciate every one of you, what you say. I think that we're lucky to be in such a group. So that's what I want to say. Miracles of people.
Amen.
Thank you, Kathy. Sylvia, do you want to unmute and share your comment?
Oh, I agree with everything everyone already said. And one of the nicest things about being on grounds committee is getting to work with Mark Mayfield, because yeah, he's pointed out identified a lot of bird songs to me. But I also like the naked trees and bushes in the winter, because I've long had this book that has silhouettes of trees, and each species has a really distinctive shape. And I love really seeing that. And even right now, you can look at the buds. It's like some of the Siberian elms, their buds are already swelling, but like the red elm and the American elm, they aren't. And so, I mean, just those little differences are really neat to see. But Dick and I also like to go to walk in the winter, because we look for the cocoons of silk moths, lunas and cecropias and polyphemus, and also wasp nests and praying mantis egg cases and spider cases. I just always like to see, I mean, you don't know they're there, and then to see how many praying mantis egg cases there are, that's kind of really encouraging. And then just this past week, Betty Banner reminded me, we both had lived in Wisconsin, this wonderful feeling, smell and sense in your lungs and nasal passages of when it snows. And just, well, Mary Beth, you know that too, you and John, that smell of the snow, like before it comes, you know, oh, it smells like it's going to snow. And then on a really, really cold day, the cold air goes up into your nasal passages and freezes the mucus in there. It just like wakens up your brain. It's just such a good feeling. Well, also the stars are so brilliant in the sky in the winter because there's less moisture. Anyway, I just really I like winter. That's all.
I think that's probably the end of our discussion. Thank you all so much for your lovely comments. And we're going to move to a closing hymn, Voice Still and Small, that Renee will play and sing for us. And as long as you're muted, you can sing along. I offer in closing these words by Reverend Sandra Fees. Whoever you are, wherever you go, may you know the stillness of winter and the call to love. May you see the moon silvering the night sky, and let the dark of midnight plunge you into your truest self and fling you back out again to a world in need of who you are. May there be familiar carols you know by heart and new melodies to set you free. May there be feasting and frolicking, kindness and wonderment. And may there be wise people to follow a star in the east and a child to teach us to love, and enough magic to let imagination go wild, to let Christmas arrive with its enchantments, with its glitter, glow, and gold, to let what wants to be born break through. May the presence of the holy crowd out fear, hate, and worry, and proclaim in this moment that peace and goodwill might yet be breathed into the world, and a vow that we too can give birth to love wherever we go, whoever we are. And with that, I'll just remind you that we will have a service on Christmas Eve, Thursday at 6:30 p.m. I'm really excited about it. It's a readings and carols style service featuring musical performances by several of our children and youth and a whole cast of readers from the congregation. I invite people to bring a candle or some other little intense light source with them. And I hope to see you there. And if you're engaged in other Christmas festivities, then I wish you the best for your celebration. And so now I will invite people, if they wish, to stay and socialize with fellowship members, friends, and guests. So Mark will break us up into breakout rooms.